An unexpected turn by Leclerc left him out of the fight for the podium. He himself admitted, without that mistake, Ferrari could have secured third place. Leclerc explained that his personal mistake was the main factor, but he did not overlook other issues that affected Ferrari in the race. "We weren't fast enough and we didn't make the best decisions on track," the Monegasque said after the race. Cameras captured the exact moment Charles Leclerc lost control exiting turn 11. One unexpected spin, a late correction, and in a matter of seconds the chance of a podium finish vanished. From the start of the Australian Grand Prix, Leclerc showed competitive pace, staying within the leading group. Ferrari had opted for an aggressive strategy with tires that, in theory, would allow him to gain an advantage in the final stages of the race. However, the uncertainty in decision-making and the changing track conditions ended up complicating the execution of the plan. Leclerc explained after the race that the main reason for the loss of positions was his own mistake at turn 11. During the critical lap, the Monegasque driver entered the corner with a slight overload on the rear axle due to overheated tires, causing the car to become unstable at the exit. The lack of grip forced him to abruptly correct his steering, but the maneuver resulted in a crucial time loss that cost him a chance at a podium finish. Beyond the one-off error, the incident also highlighted the challenges Ferrari faced in managing the SF-25's balance. Throughout the weekend, the car showed a tendency to become unstable in the more technical sections of the circuit, especially in the final part of the lap, where downforce and tire degradation played a key role. Despite his frustration, Leclerc adopted a different stance than on other occasions. Rather than pointing to the car's lack of performance or the team's strategic failings, he openly acknowledged that his mistake was decisive in the final result. This self-criticism marks a change of mindset compared to previous seasons, in which both he and other Ferrari drivers tended to attribute poor results to external factors. Subsequent analysis revealed that, before the incident, Leclerc was managing to maintain a similar pace to the leaders, indicating that Ferrari had the potential to secure a third-place finish. However, the combination of factors, the failure at turn 11, tire degradation, and a lack of synchronized strategic decisions, ended up leaving the Scuderia off the podium. With this result, Leclerc and Ferrari now face the challenge of analyzing what aspects they can improve for the upcoming races. While the error in Melbourne was an isolated factor, consistency in strategy execution and adapting the SF-25 to different track conditions will be key to staying in the championship fight. From the start of the Melbourne weekend, Ferrari hinted at certain difficulties that would compromise its race performance. Despite the improvements implemented on the SF-25, the team failed to achieve the level of consistency necessary to compete on equal terms with McLaren and Red Bull in changing conditions. One of the main challenges was adapting to the new pull rod suspension system, a key modification to the car's aerodynamic philosophy. In theory, this change would improve airflow control and cornering efficiency, but in Australia it exposed unexpected issues with the car's overall balance. During practice sessions, it was observed that the SF-25 struggled to maintain stability in highly demanding sections, especially in the final stretch of the circuit, where tire overheating became a critical factor. The lack of pace at certain points in the race was also related to accelerated tire degradation. While teams like Red Bull and McLaren were able to extend their stints by efficiently managing wear, the Ferraris began to lose performance more quickly than expected. In Leclerc's case, this resulted in a progressive loss of grip that directly affected his ability to defend positions in the second half of the race. Another determining factor was strategic decision-making. During the pit stop window, Ferrari was slow to react to changing track conditions, leaving them vulnerable to their rivals. Unlike McLaren, which opted for an aggressive strategy in anticipation of the changing track conditions, Ferrari maintained a more conservative approach, which in hindsight resulted in valuable lost time. Compared to its predecessor, the SF-24, the new car showed notable differences in terms of on-track performance. While last season Ferrari managed to maintain greater stability on technical circuits like Melbourne, this year the SF-25 seems to require a more precise tuning margin to perform optimally in different scenarios. Internal management within the team also plays a crucial role in these results. Throughout the weekend, it became clear that communication between drivers and engineers was not effective enough to react in a timely manner to the challenges that arose during the race. The decision-making lag, coupled with difficulties with tire degradation and instability in certain corners, made it clear that Ferrari still has work to do to optimize its performance. Despite these difficulties, the SF-25's potential remains evident. In sections where the car managed to maintain ideal tire temperatures, the race pace was competitive, allowing Leclerc to stay close to the podium. However, if Ferrari is to become a serious contender for the championship, it will be crucial to find quick solutions to the balance, strategy, and tire management issues that became evident in Australia. The result in Australia not only represents a missed opportunity for Ferrari, but also raises questions about its ability to remain in the championship fight throughout the season. While the SF-25 has shown potential in certain areas, the issues evident in Melbourne make it clear that the team has not yet achieved the consistency needed to challenge Red Bull and McLaren on a sustained basis. One of the key aspects that will determine Ferrari's direction in the upcoming races will be its ability to adapt to different types of circuits. Melbourne exposed weaknesses in tire management and the car's stability in changing track conditions, but performance on more conventional tracks like Suzuka or Imola will serve as the ultimate test to assess whether the SF-25 truly has the necessary level to compete for victories on a regular basis. Comparisons with its main rivals are also a determining factor. Red Bull, despite not having dominated the Constructors' Championship standings in 2024, continues to demonstrate impressive resilience, with a car that adapts well to different scenarios and a team that rarely makes strategic errors. McLaren, meanwhile, has made a significant leap in terms of competitiveness and consistency, overtaking Ferrari in the fight for the Constructors' title last season and maintaining a solid performance in Australia. For Ferrari, this means that any margin of error will be costly. The lack of precision in strategy execution and the car's instability in certain conditions could become difficult obstacles to overcome if McLaren and Red Bull continue to develop their cars without major issues. Another key point will be the evolution of the SF-25 throughout the year. Unlike previous seasons, where Ferrari showed a tendency to stagnate in terms of technical development, in 2025 it will be essential to introduce constant improvements to correct the weaknesses identified in the first races. The team's ability to implement effective updates and quickly adapt them to the demands of each circuit could make the difference between staying in the fight or falling behind. It will also be crucial to analyze how the dynamic within the team evolves. The relationship between Leclerc and Ferrari has been solid in terms of mutual trust, but the team's level of competitiveness could influence its long-term future. With the arrival of Lewis Hamilton at Maranello, the pressure to deliver results will be even greater, and any indication that the team is not progressing could generate internal tensions that would affect its performance. At the championship level, the Australian Grand Prix served as a reminder that the 2025 title fight will not be easy. If Ferrari wants to avoid being trapped in a battle for second or third place, it will need to respond quickly to the issues evident in Melbourne and demonstrate that it has the technical and strategic development capacity necessary to challenge its rivals over the course of the season. One of the most determining factors in Ferrari's performance during the Australian Grand Prix was tire management in the high-temperature conditions. From free practice onwards, the SF-25 showed a tendency to overheat the rear axle in the most demanding sections of the circuit, a problem that became more pronounced during the race. The asphalt temperature in Melbourne remained above 40 degrees Celsius, 104 degrees Fahrenheit, in several sessions, which posed an additional challenge for tire wear management. Compared to Red Bull and McLaren, Ferrari struggled to balance race pace with tire conservation. Throughout the weekend, the Scuderia engineers attempted to modify the car's setup to reduce degradation, but the adjustments were not enough to counteract the problem in the race. The main complication arose in the final sector of the circuit, where the combination of low and medium speed corners required greater stability from the rear of the car. As the race progressed, the SF-25's rear tires lost grip more quickly than those of its rivals, forcing Leclerc and Sainz to make constant corrections on corner exits. This loss of traction not only affected acceleration but also caused the car to consume more energy on the straights, making overtaking and defensive maneuvers difficult. Another critical point was the choice of compound for each stint. Ferrari opted for a first stint with medium tires to extend the pit stop window and achieve better performance in the second half of the race. However, premature were forced a change in strategy and an earlier-than-planned pit stop. This decision compromised performance in the final stretch of the race, as the hard tires failed to provide the expected level of grip, affecting Leclerc's pace in the closing laps. The difference in tire management between Ferrari and its direct rivals was evident in the lap time comparison. While Red Bull and McLaren managed to maintain a more consistent performance throughout the stint, the Ferraris experienced a progressive drop in pace, leaving them vulnerable at key moments in the race. In technical terms, one of the factors influencing the degradation was the car's weight distribution. The SF-25 appears to have a tendency to generate more load on the rear axle and traction corners, leading to uneven rear tire wear. This problem had already been observed in pre-season, but in Australia it became clear that Ferrari has yet to find a definitive solution. For the upcoming races, the key will be to improve the car's efficiency and tire thermal management. Circuits like Suzuka and Imola present similar characteristics in terms of tire compounds, so Ferrari will have to work on finding a balance that allows it to reduce degradation without compromising performance in qualifying and the race. If the team fails to optimize the SF-25 setup to better adapt to high temperatures, the fight for victory will be even more complicated in the following rounds of the championship. Ferrari's ability to resolve this issue will determine whether it can remain a strong contender throughout the season or whether, once again, it will have to settle for chasing Red Bull and McLaren without being able to match their consistency in the race. The Australian Grand Prix has highlighted both Ferrari's potential and weaknesses at the start of this season. Charles Leclerc took responsibility for his mistake at turn 11, but a detailed analysis of the race shows that the problem goes beyond a single on-track action. A lack of pace at times, premature tire degradation, and the team's strategic hesitations were decisive factors in a weekend that could have ended with a podium finish for the Scuderia. This result also raises questions about the true level of the SF-25. Ferrari has implemented significant changes to the car's design, opting for an aggressive evolution that, in theory, should improve its performance compared to the SF-24. However, adaptation to these modifications has not been immediate, and the car's stability in race conditions is not yet fully optimized. The key for the upcoming races will be finding the right balance between the car's potential and its reliability in different track conditions. In a championship where every detail counts, the difference between being in the title fight or falling behind will depend on how quickly Ferrari can correct its issues. McLaren and Red Bull have demonstrated immediate responsiveness, with cars that, so far, have shown better tire wear management and more precise strategic execution. If Ferrari fails to improve these aspects in the upcoming races, the gap with its main rivals could increase significantly. Leclerc's approach after the race is a reflection of the mentality Ferrari needs to remain competitive. Instead of making excuses, the driver has opted for an analytical approach that allows the team to focus on finding solutions. The big question now is whether the Scuderia will be able to translate this self-criticism into tangible improvements that will allow it to regain ground in the championship fight. The season is long and there is still room to turn things around, but each race represents a new opportunity to demonstrate that Ferrari can rise to the challenge. What happened in Melbourne should serve as a warning, not only for Leclerc and his engineering team, but for the entire Scuderia structure. The upcoming races will be crucial in determining whether the SF-25 has what it takes to contend with the title or if, once again, Ferrari will have to settle for being a supporting player in the fight for glory.